You're listening to Where You Live with Gene Sullivan.
Welcome back to Where You Live. Christopher has decided to give us theme music, bumper music, which is from well-known game shows.
Correct.
And this one is a little bit different. I'm going to say, is this one... what is that person? There was a gal, a very acerbic English woman.
Did she sound like this?
You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Yes, the
Yep.
weakest link.
That is her.
That is, and
Nicely
this
done.
is it, right?
Yep, that's it.
All right. I am back in the saddle again.
That's right.
Well,
1 for 2.
there we go. Good. Well, I can't wait to see what we've got here for our last segment.
All right.
But, folks, welcome back. This is Where You Live. I'm Gene Sullivan, broadcasting from the True North Painting Studios, brought to you by Extreme Exteriors and American Family Insurance, the Kim Bennett Agency. We're talking about this article coming out of Toronto, Canada. There is a federation of a tenants union that is saying we think that there's exploitation being done of people renting in condominiums. And I'm saying I don't think exploitation is really what's taking place. What is taking place is just a misunderstanding of the notion of ownership of real estate and property. And that's very important when you are dealing with responsibility. And here is what we're going to be getting into next year is probably the crux of what people have a hard time seeing. And that is, I just said in the last break, you know, if you look at a condo association and next to it is an apartment building, you'd probably be hard-pressed to know which is which until you looked at the signage in front of the property itself. The real difference is in terms of responsibility, because in a homeowners association, as you know, for those who live in an association, there are two types of items that need repair and maintenance: common elements and limited common elements, right? The common elements are the things that are common to everybody. In a condominium, what would they be? Well, the carpeting in the hallway that's outside your unit goes down the hall, passes your neighbor's door and your neighbor's door. Because you share that, that's a common element that the association is responsible for collectively. So part of your association fees or assessments monthly will go to take care of that. You have what's called a limited common element. And why do they call it limited? Well, the use and enjoyment is limited to you, the unit owner, and not to everybody. Give you an example. And that would be a patio or a deck. You can, if you have a patio or a deck outside of your condominium unit, you'd like to go out and sit outside and sit there on a nice day, maybe have dinner in the evening, and that's all well and good. If it were a common element, that means it's common to everybody, and anybody could use your deck or patio at any time, and you'd probably be kind of concerned about that, wouldn't you? Even if you were a renter, you don't own the place, but someone's now starting to eat outside of that deck or patio that's right outside of your unit, you'd say, hey, that's what I'm paying for. That's what I'm renting. A limited common element. So if something needs to be done or repaired in a limited common element, not everybody else in the association is going to take care of it. Only the guy who owns it. Then the association says that's your responsibility. The issue comes in I think the real problem here that the tenants union or federation in Toronto is having a problem with is this notion of responsibility. Because if you go into a apartment building and something needs to be fixed, the landlord is responsible for the whole building, isn't he? And because of that, anytime something needs to be done, it's easy. If something needs to be repaired, the landlord does it because it's his responsibility. People are confused and people are upset because of what they think takes a long time for repairs to be made, because they don't understand that sometimes people have got to figure out, well, who's responsible for it? Is the responsibility that of your landlord, whom you, the condo renter, signed an agreement with? Is this something that he is responsible for taking care of, or is it something that the association is responsible for taking care of? And there are people, renters, who are saying, oh, that's too confusing. I don't want to go through that big mess. I just want to be able to tell someone when something needs to be repaired, I want it to be done, and that's that. Because it's not, because I've got to figure this out, because I don't get responses right away, some of the people are beginning to say to this Tenants Federation, we think we're feeling like second-class citizens because we don't have people jumping to and taking care of things like they would in an apartment building. So my question to you would be, if you're going to rent from someone who owns a property in a homeowners association, if that's important to you, why then would you rent there? If you don't want to deal with confusion, if you don't want to deal with the idea or the notion of who's responsible for that, and try and go through that whole issue, why move there? I mean, it would be the same thing. I know of someone who said, I don't like renting a home that's by a railroad track where trains are going by all the time. It's too noisy. I can't get to sleep. There are other people who've said, I love living in a home next to a railroad track. I love the sound of a train and the whistle going by. So if you don't like it, you don't live there. You don't rent that place. If you do like it, you do rent there. If you've got children, why would you rent a place that doesn't have a yard if you want them to be able to go outside and play? These are things that you need to think about. You can't go back and blame anybody other than yourself if you are living in a situation where it doesn't provide you the services or the expectations that you have. If your expectations aren't being met, don't live there. Don't enter into that lease. That's the issue here. And the problem here is not with exploitation. And again, it's a minute number, isn't it? 1/10 to 2/10 of 1% of all renters renting in condominiums are calling the Federation saying there's an issue. Not this huge epidemic, is there? You need to be able to think about some of that. Here's another huge issue with that the Tenant Federation has, and they can't understand or reconcile this with someone renting in a condominium association. According to the Residential Tenancy Act, which is the statutes dealing with what are the responsibilities of the landlord, what are the responsibilities of a renter. It says in there that in the responsibilities of the landlord, that the landlord cannot mark up on the cost of keys. Apparently that was a big issue, and some legislators said we need to change that. So they changed the Residential Tenancy Act to say that if you're a landlord and it only costs you $1.50 to cut a key because a tenant loses a key, you can only charge them $1.50, the actual cost for cutting the key. I think landlords were trying to say, hey, you know what? I don't want to be going back and forth and providing keys to you all the time, so I'd like to charge $10, $25, and hopefully it'll be a little bit more important to you because you'll get that money back, as a security deposit once I get my keys back and you leave the place. But it says now if you lose the keys, and you're a landlord, you can only charge the cost. All right. Well, in a condominium association, some condo associations have electronic doors that are run by key fobs. These are wonderful devices. I've seen them and have them in a number of properties that we manage for clients throughout the Twin Cities. And you just take that key fob and you just swipe it by the box by the door automatically unlocks. It's easy for getting in, getting out. The cost, if you lose a key fob and have to replace it, is probably only $1.50. It's not much of a cost at all. And so a lot of HOAs like having it because if a key fob is lost, instead of having a key out there that someone else could use down the line somewhere else to get back into the building when they're not allowed to, the key fob can be unactivated. And then it can be an easy thing, and you don't have to worry about people having entrance into your building. Well, the many condo associations are saying we want to control what happens, and so they charge every member in the association several $100s just for this key fob. Can you imagine that? They're being charged $500 for the key fob. Now, when the person sells their home, they will either get that $500 transfer fee from the new person buying, or they'll get it back from the association, and then the new owner can get the key fob or key fobs for that price. So according to the Residential Tenancy Act, you can't charge more than what the actual cost is. And so here the Federation is saying, hey, this is foul. We know those key fobs only cost $1.50. But the landlord is saying, no, it may only cost $1.50, but my cost was $500. And so I'm passing that on to the renter. And so here they're saying this is unfair. This is deplorable. This can't happen. And what we see here is, do you see it? A great, huge misunderstanding. Exploitation? Not really. Big misunderstanding? You bet. But I tell you what, we are going to take a break right now, but don't go away. We're going to wrap everything up in our last segment here on Where You Live after these messages.